I think the meeting in and of itself, it's a good sign. So I'm glad that such meeting, in fact, is taking place. However, it is very important to establish the context of such meeting. And my feeling has been always, every issue, every conflicting issue between the two sides can be put on the table, except one thing, Kosovo's independence, which means any negotiations can take place as long as eventually they lead to Serbia's recognition of Kosovo. That is how I see it. If this issue is not established from the very beginning, they can make certainly some progress, but that will not culminate with ultimately what Kosovo would like to see happen. So I think the United States and the EU very clear that the purpose is recognition of Kosovo's independence, and that Kosovo will be prepared to discuss every issue between the two sides to achieve that objective. Well, if it is never, then the EU ought to understand that very clearly. What I advise Kurti to do is do everything in his power to focus on the economic, social, political development within Kosovo, deal very consistently with corruption, and make it clear to the EU that Kosovo is always ready to sit down and negotiate, and it's making the internal necessary progress for the purpose also of integration. So in so doing, Kurti will be able to put the onus, the responsibility on Serbia. And then the EU may very well think differently. That is, as long as Kosovo demonstrates sincerely that it is willing to sit down and negotiate every conflicting issue, for example, including the association of various municipalities, including trade, everything else between the two sides can be discussed. And if the EU need to come to the conclusion that it is Serbia who is refusing to come to recognize Kosovo, and they may very well reconsider their position in connection with Kosovo, and that is going to put pressure on Serbia. That is, I don't see why the EU cannot make that decision in terms of if Serbia continue to refuse, then they should send a signal that the EU may very well begin a process of integration with Kosovo. That is going to put significant pressure on Serbia. Vučić just said, as you mentioned earlier, that he will never recognize Kosovo. That's what he said. So what do we do now? We do two things. Kosovo should prepare itself and do every kind of reform that the EU required from it in order to qualify for the integration. B, the United States will continue to exert pressure on Serbia on a day in and day out. That is, if Serbia wants to become a member with the Western Hemisphere, then it has to change its position.